my ex came back after being gone for a month, that the divorce word was thrown around. And it was literally at the end of the weekend. We had spent the weekend together. 2 hours before we left for the airport to go back to New Mexico, it was just like, I think I want a divorce. And then left again. And then never came back.
Hey, welcome to the Single Mami podcast. I am your host, Ale. Join me in the conversation about single parenthood, the struggles of co-parenting, and the joys of parenting, and maybe even a little bit of chisme. Hi, welcome to the Single Mami podcast. I'm Alejandra, and this is my first guest here, Ashley McIntyre.
Hi.
Just a quick little intro to Ashley, and you can always correct me if I get anything wrong. You're the director of medical aesthetics for Aspire Medical Spa in Denver. You've been working as a nurse for like 10 years?
12 years.
12 years now. And Ashley and I are good friends. We met at the gym. And yeah, we vibed on a lot of different levels. When we met, we were going through similar situations. Remember, it was a lot of crying sessions at the gym.
Oh, it's like therapy.
Yes. Yeah, it was. It was like therapy. So to help us understand a little bit of your journey and how we got here, I think when I started at the gym, you guys had talked about the D word.
Yeah, so I started at the gym, I think in maybe the end of January, beginning of February 2021. And things were definitely rocky. And my ex had gone to New Mexico to work. And so I was living alone at that time because he was traveling for work. And it was the end of February 2021 when he came back after being gone for a month that the divorce word was thrown around. And it was literally at the end of the weekend. We had spent the weekend together like we normally would have. And he, 2 hours before he left for the airport to go back to New Mexico, was just like, I think I want a divorce. And then left again. And then never came back. Essentially, you know, there's definitely a lot more to it than that. But like, it was just one of those things where he said he wanted a divorce. He couldn't do this anymore. And never lived at the house after that.
Okay. What was going through your mind when that happened?
I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I had been with him for 17 years at that point. I met him when I was 18.
Yeah.
And so my entire adult life had been with this person. And trying to think about how to do life without that person, from a financial standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from all the things that have been second nature for so long, was terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. By the time everything was said and done, 18 years of my life, it's a complete 180.
Yeah. And that is scary, I think, as a woman, to have to start a new chapter abruptly like that, and just to... You're probably panicking. I know I was panicking. What was your step after that? Like, were you processing everything?
Definitely processing. I started going to therapy in March or April of 2021 because I was like, I need somebody to help me process this. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. I need somebody to like vent to that can help me reframe what I'm thinking. And so I started going to therapy, and that was really, really helpful. Like, I know we're on this whole like mental health kick of like, everybody needs therapy, but like, seriously, everybody needs therapy.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody needs therapy. And then it was really just me sitting down and looking at where I was at from a financial standpoint to figure out how I was going to do this. I think those were the two biggest things for me, was one, getting my mental health where I could handle this appropriately and with strength and grace, but also figure out how I can still afford my life. Yeah. And sure, things were going to change, but, he was the primary breadwinner. Yeah. And, he paid for a significant portion of, our day-to-day lives. And so figuring out, was I going to be able to keep my house? Was I going to have to move? I didn't have a car. I was going to have to get a car. Like, figuring out what my monthly budget was going to be was probably the biggest stressor. Yeah. Of that time. Yeah. And I did it. And, it just putting pen to paper and just writing it all out versus just kind of like trolling it around in your mind was really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of women can relate to that, just to like panicking and then having to make a plan.
Yeah.
And being scared about finances and being like worried, like, well, now how am I going to do this and do that when we've been so reliant on having a partner there?
Yeah.
And having two incomes and having to bounce off ideas off of two people and just having to start over and like figure everything out.
Yeah, and Denver's expensive.
Yeah.
This is not
Yeah.
a cheap cost of living state or city. So yeah, and it forced me to, for lack of a better term, hustle a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I took on a second job,
Mm-hmm.
training with a laser company, and I just worked my tail off so that I could build, you know,
Yeah.
a pillow for me to land on.
Yeah.
That would make me comfortable when everything was said and done. And it wasn't me figuring out every month, where's my mortgage going to come from? Where's my car payment going to come from? I had that cushion
Mm-hmm.
that I could fall back on, you know, if push came to shove.
Yeah. When the idea of divorce, when he threw it out, did he continue payments as usual for like the mortgage?
Yeah.
And then, or did it stop little by little?
No, he continued to pay the mortgage up until we were officially divorced.
Okay.
So I was very fortunate in that aspect that I was able
Mm-hmm.
to hustle as hard as I did and save
Yeah.
literally all of that money. So I would say in that aspect, like there was never any like negativity between us. Like, yeah. There were definitely moments of anger, and we talked, you know, when we were talking and trying to figure out how this was going to move forward. But in that aspect, there was not hostility. And
Yeah.
so he was still like, I'm going to make sure you're taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't want to be with you anymore.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Still hurts.
But, you know, at least I didn't have to worry about where I was going to live at that current moment. It allowed me to process a lot more things
Mm-hmm.
without that added stress.
Okay. So at what point did you reach out to a lawyer?
So the divorce conversation happened the end of February 2021, and just kind of sat on it for a couple months. And then in May, I reached out to a lawyer who was referred to me by a close friend just to get some information. I was like, I have no idea what this entails. How long does it take? What do I need to have? So I just had a consult to find out, you know, what's this going to cost me and things like that. So met with that lawyer in May. Then my ex came back and decided he wanted to try again.
Mm-hmm.
And we had very, you know, open conversations about what we each needed and what I needed from him and things like that. And it was really great for a month. He was living in Las Vegas at the time, so I traveled to Vegas to spend a long weekend with him. You know, I thought it went really, really well, and I was like, okay, well, like we can do this. We can work through it. And then the next month he came back home, and it was like nothing had changed. And this is a very common cycle for us.
Yeah.
I would, you know, I joked that we had quarterly blow-ups.
Yeah.
And I would be able to tolerate everything for about 3 months, and then I would initiate a conversation about how I'm feeling, and then he would gaslight me, and then he would be like, I'll be better, and then he was better for a month, and then it was just this vicious cycle that we were constantly in. And so July, roughly, you know, I was like, hey, we're falling back in the same pattern. Like, I need these things from you. And if you can't give me these things, then, you know, we just need to call it quits.
Yeah.
And he left again, back to Vegas where he was working. And in August, I was traveling for work. We were having a conversation. I was at the airport in New York. I was sitting at JFK having this conversation with him. And he was just saying all these things that were really negative about me, and like just couldn't say anything positive. And so I asked him at that point, I was like, if you can say these things about me, then why do you want to be with me?
Yeah.
You know, and it was at that point that it kind of just clicked in my head that this wasn't going to work. And I'm tired of trying to make it work, because it was always me trying to make it work. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if this is going to move forward, it's going to be because I'm going to push it forward. Otherwise, we're just going to sit and just live in the state of limbo. And I'm ready for the next chapter of my life. If he's not going to be in it, then I'm ready to move on. And so it was August 25th of 2021 that I actually filed the paperwork for a divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's hard because you wanted it to work out and you put in all this effort, but it wasn't being reciprocated.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it was one of those things that it was really, really sad, but also like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
At the same time. So it was like a really like...
Because you weren't, like you said, in limbo. You had decided.
Yes. So I knew from this point on we were going to be moving in that direction. And I wasn't going to have to worry about whether or not he wants to be with me or doesn't want to be with me. I made this decision that this is what was going to happen. And he, quite frankly, was not happy about it. When I called him to let him know, he was not happy.
Which is interesting because he hasn't, from his actions, like I haven't seen anything
I was just like,
saying otherwise.
I was so confused. I was just like, what do you want? Like, you are the one that came to me and said you wanted a divorce. And we've been in this state for 6 months now. Where are we going? Were we just going to live these separate lives, like legally married, but in 2 separate states? And you continuing to pay for my life? Like, great for me, but I don't want to be dependent on you. Like, I'm quite capable of taking care of myself. We just need to figure this out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when the whole lawyers got involved.
And then, so August is when it essentially started. When did it all wrap up?
May of 2022.
So it's basically a year of...
Yeah, so 9 months, I think, of dealing with lawyers and divorce proceedings. 15-ish months from the time he said he wanted a divorce.
Yeah.
So for me, it felt like a really long process. It was just the 2 of us. It was merely just us figuring out how to split everything. There were no kids involved. Yeah. There was really nothing that should have made it complicated. Yeah. Except for him.
Right. Right.
He made things complicated. He delayed the process on multiple occasions.
And with a lawyer, if you're prolonging it, it adds up.
Yeah.
It gets more expensive.
Oh, yeah. Like, I blew through my initial retainer within, like, the first 3 months.
Yeah.
And so while it costed me a lot more than I expected it to, like, it was well worth it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to go through that process by myself because there was high dollar items that we were splitting. We had 2 properties. So, we had to figure out what to do with those things and things like that. And just the whole division of assets. I wanted it to be fair to me. I've supported him for 18 years. And while I wasn't necessarily, making a lot of money during that time, I definitely gave up my life to move across the country for him, to move to another country for him. And, I had to restart my career every single time I did that. So it put me behind the curve, professionally for a very long time.
Did you feel like when that part was explained, you guys didn't end up going to court, right?
We did not go to court. Yeah. Okay. We were able, our court date, I think, was June 2nd, and the divorce papers were signed on May 20th. So it came down to the wire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of him waiting for him to sign the divorce papers. Yeah.
Do you know why he took so long? Like what?
I mean, I can only speculate. And based on the conversations that we had, I know that it was related to the amount of money that he would owe me.
Okay.
For the division of assets and that kind of, the nature of that.
Okay.
So there was a lot of negotiation started between our lawyers and then ended just between him and I about what that settlement was going to be. He was not happy at the original mediation that we had with what was presented to him based strictly on Colorado law. Like, I was not out there to go after, anything that I wasn't entitled to based on the word of the law. And I was open to negotiation about it, but you had to start somewhere. And I'm not going to start,
low
with pennies.
Because it'll just shrink from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Afterwards, how was your healing journey from there? Because I feel like we've both come a long way from like where we started off.
Yeah, I'm a completely different person than I was in February of 2021.
Yeah.
A lot of self-reflection and, looking inward to see how I can be better for my next relationship. And I think too, just realizing that I'm a powerful woman.
Yeah.
And I don't need a man. And I know that sounds like so cliche to say. I'm from the South. And in the South, it's still a little bit backwards about women are like the homemakers and the stay-at-home moms, and you're just expected to get married and start having children and those sorts of things. And I don't have that. I don't have children. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with my life now? So realizing that I'm capable of taking care of myself, and I am a beautiful woman, because I was made to believe that I wasn't for a very long time. And that, I can do life on my own just fine.
Yeah.
It was a huge eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
I can do this. And it definitely helped that I was surrounded by really amazing women at the gym. The gym was definitely part of my therapy. I saw my therapist once a week, but I also saw you guys every day.
Yes.
And so having a really strong group of women around me was significant in that process as well.
Yeah. I think we can all agree, like, divorce is scary, but there's so many beautiful things that come out of it, because I think back to people that I haven't been in touch with before my divorce, I'm like, oh, I'm a completely different person. Like, I don't even know you anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
and my family can see it too. They're like, we watched you just kind of shrink in his shadow, because it was his way or no way. And he made all the rules. And so for them to see me now, like, thriving, and, I was talking to my dad last night about, hey, like, I'm thinking about potentially, taking out a home equity line of credit, maybe buy a second home. And those were things that I never would have thought that I was capable of if I was still with him.
Yeah. It's been great to watch you grow and become more confident in yourself. It's been really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people can learn about divorce, and obviously it's nothing I would wish on another person, but there are situations where it just really calls for it, and it doesn't matter how much that you're fighting for it and you're fighting for your marriage, that like, at some point you have to come first.
Yeah. And I always said that I was never going to get divorced. Like, I was in it for better or for worse.
Yeah.
In most cases, you can figure out the root of the problem and work through it, but you have to have two people that are willing to work through it. And I'm a child of divorce. My parents are divorced. They are both happily remarried, and, have been married to their second spouses for, 20 years. So it doesn't make me think that it's not possible for me either. It's just that wasn't the right person. Yeah. And I think part of that too is recognizing that it wasn't the right person. And for so long I tried to make him the right person. And I always relate to being like square peg, round hole. Like, it fits, but it doesn't quite fit.
Yeah.
And realizing that we were just two different people that probably could be great friends, but from a romantic and partnership, it was never going to work. Yeah. And recognizing that gives you a lot of power.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
I know it was kind of like digging back to, like, those feelings in that moment.
We've come a long way. I can get through without crying now. So we're good.
Yes. Okay. Now I wanted to pivot more to what you're doing now as your career in aesthetics.
Yeah.
So you started off as a nurse, right? An ER nurse. Do I remember that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we go back just even a little bit further, I started in plastics and dermatology before I went to nursing school.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I kind of fell in love with that field. And I went to nursing school, and I would tell everybody in nursing school that I was never going to be a hospital nurse. I was never going to work in the hospital. I'm going to go back and work for this plastic surgeon. I'm going to be his OR nurse. This is my jam. My senior thesis in nursing school was on the importance of sunscreen and the prevention of skin cancers. Oh. So I'm a total skin nerd. However, when I was in nursing school, I rotated through the ER, and I fell in love with the ER. Okay. So that was when I graduated. I did work as an ER nurse for 1 whole year.
Okay.
I got burnt out, and then I went back to dermatology.
Yeah.
So I've been in dermatology and aesthetics since 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I know at the gym we like to ask you all our questions. We're just like, Ashley, what do I need?
Yes.
What did you do? I actually had an appointment with you earlier this week, and I had to reschedule.
Oh, bummer.
Or was it facial balancing?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So just explain a little bit about
Yeah. So facial balancing is what we are looking at when we're talking about filler. And we want to make sure that if we're treating one part of the face, we're not throwing it out of proportion to another part of the face. And so 100% of the time, we're looking at cheeks, chin, lips, maybe jawline. And so if I'm going to be doing cheeks on somebody and giving them a little bit more contouring of the cheeks, then we want to make sure their chin gives them enough projection as well. And so if we don't, and you still have a weak chin, then you're going to look off balance. Or if you come to me and say, Ashley, I want you to plump those lips up. Great. We also probably still need to look at your chin too, because we don't want your lips to be so plump that we lose your chin as well. Or, you know, some patients come to me and they have a very, what I call a Romanesque nose. You know, if they have a nose on the larger side and they want me to give them lips, then they're going to have these larger lips, a larger nose, and a weak chin. Things look out of balance. That's what we talk about when we talk about facial balancing, is that if we're treating one part of the face, it's not going to throw anything else out of proportion.
I hadn't heard about that until that service being offered at Aspire, because I think it's also really necessary that people come in, they're like, I want big lips.
Yeah. That's also not something that I typically do.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely happy to plump up a lip, but you're not going to see anything come out of my office that looks like sausage lips.
Yes. We have all seen that.
We've all seen that. We've all seen really bad filler, but you've also seen a lot of really good filler. And I think, you know, you've seen me kind of through my filler process as well, which I'm happy to give you photos that you can show.
Yeah.
It should look natural. Nobody should be able to look at you and say, ooh, she's full of filler.
Yeah.
You know, I use myself as an example all the time in my clinic when they're like, oh, I don't know if filler makes you look fake. I'm like, do I look like I have filler? They're like, well, no. I'm like, girl, I got like 20 syringes in my face.
Right. Yeah.
We can do this very, very naturally.
Okay. So, for that being said, what I feel like there, especially in Denver, I've seen a lot of kind of sketchy med spa places that will give you the sausage lips.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you recommend clients to look into when they're deciding their med spa?
Yeah, I think there should definitely be a lot of research that goes into it. I think that I think it should be an RN or higher, so registered nurse or higher, doing the procedure.
Like looking at credentials?
Credentials, for sure. In the state of Colorado, estheticians can do filler injections, and there are some great estheticians out there. However, it's just a different level of training.
Okay.
Estheticians in esthetician school don't get anatomy training or anything like that. So it just breeds a different type of injector.
Yeah.
And two, look at their before and afters. If you can't find a significant amount of before and afters, if they can't provide you with before and afters, you know, maybe either they don't have good ones or they're lazy, I don't know, but you want to be able to, they should be able to show off their work.
Yeah.
Lastly, look at your injector.
I think that's a great word.
We say that a lot in the industry, is what your injector looks like is what you're going to look like. And so again, when my patients come to see me and they can't tell that I have a single drop of filler in my face, that's what we're going for. But if you look at your injector and you're like, I don't want to look like that, maybe that's not the injector for you. But lastly, avoid Groupon at all costs.
Oh, is that people use Groupon?
Oh my gosh, there's so many spas out there that do Groupons. One, for me, I'm here in my office, I establish a relationship with my patients. Like, I want you to be a lifelong patient for me. I want to take care of all of your anti-aging needs from here on out. The Groupon patients are not going to be those patients, and they're just looking for a good deal. So they don't care if you're a good injector or not, but also you're going to be going to places that may not be as reputable as you'd like them to be if they're having to give significantly discounted services. So please just avoid that. It's worth the money to pay for a good injector.
Yeah. Yes.
It's your face.
Yeah. It's an investment. Like, don't try to coupon it.
Yeah. This is not the place, like, we go cheap. Like, I don't know.
It's your face.
Use your coupons at the grocery store, not at your injector's office.
Not on your face. Yeah. I did not know people were using Groupon for
They
that.
do. They sure do. Yeah.
Okay. I think the one that was surprising when you mentioned that, I don't know why I didn't think about it before, is looking at your esthetician's face, because I've gone to places where I'm like, oh, maybe she just likes filler.
And some people do. You know, some people like that big,
but that's not what I want.
Big look. And, you know, I follow injectors here in Denver that's their clientele, and that's great. That's their niche, but that's not what I'm about.
No.
I like the natural look.
Same.
I want people to say, you look really well rested. What are you doing?
Yes.
You know, I don't want people to go, ooh, who did that? You're a walking advertisement for me.
Yeah.
So if somebody goes, ooh, Alejandra.
Yes.
Who did that to you? And you're like, oh my gosh, Ashley at Aspire did it.
Yeah.
And they're like, mental note, I'm not going there.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say is the most popular service?
From an injectable point of view,
Yeah, we'll start there.
we'll go with Botox or any
Botox.
of the toxins.
Uh-huh.
It's a really quick and easy service with very little downtime, and it's a really impactful service. So I would say that's probably the number one injectable
Okay,
treatment.
got it. And then for what other services besides Botox and fillers? Because I've done a few.
Yes, so microneedling,
Yeah.
which is great for collagen stimulation. We have a really great laser that has no downtime that also treats pigmentation, redness, collagen stimulation, active acne scarring. We have a CO2 laser that's become really popular. That's also great for just skin resurfacing, acne scars, pigmentation. Hydrofacials are really popular. And then we have your standard maintenance services like a dermaplane.
Yeah.
That's always going to be a super popular treatment.
Okay. So for Botox, when do you think is the right time to start?
It's a great question. So it's easier to prevent a wrinkle than it is to correct a wrinkle.
Okay.
So I always say before you get it. But if we need to put a number on it, I would say somewhere between 28 and 30, I think is a really great time to start. Do I have clients come in that are 25, 23? Absolutely. We're going to do baby talks on them. They don't have a ton to correct. But I think for a consistent dose and frequency, 28 to 30 is a great place to start.
Okay. Interesting. I'm there. I'm there.
I've been there for a long time.
Yes. What are some of your favorite products that you guys sell?
My first and foremost, my favorite product is going to be sunscreen. That's your insurance policy for your skin. So no matter what you do, if at least just wear sunscreen, that just protects everything. I think my next favorite product would probably be our Retin-A that we have. It's just, there's 3 products that I adore, and that's going to be a vitamin C, a Retin-A, and sunscreen. If you got those 3,
your go-to.
yeah. If you got those 3, then you're doing really well. We can add all sorts of fun stuff. Our dermal repair cream is fantastic for hydration. We've got firming cream. We've got everything.
Yeah.
Runs the gamut.
Yes.
Depends on how invasive you want to be and how complicated you want to make your skincare routine.
Yeah.
But as long as you have those first 3, the vitamin C, the Retin-A, and the sunscreen, you're golden.
I think I'm just missing the sunscreen. I use a different sunscreen.
Okay.
But I'll check yours out.
As long as you're wearing the sunscreen, that's fine.
Great. Well, thank you. I think that was really interesting. Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
To wrap
Gosh.
up.
Okay.
Pumpkin spice, yay or nay?
Of course. I'm basic. I have black leggings and boots on right now.
It is fall. Sephora or Ulta?
A Sephora.
Winter or summer?
Winter.
Johnny Depp or John Mayer?
John Mayer.
Nicki or Cardi?
Ooh. Cardi.
Skiing or snowboarding?
Skiing.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
My first guest.
Yay!
Thank you. Definitely, we'll be happy to have you on again.
Well, let's do it.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.